Hi, I'm Mallory Hobson and I write. Today I'll be reading my story from the Salmon Creek Journal called Jaime. You can't recall how long you've been hearing it. For what it's worth, it may as well have been all your life. You used to assume it was the brightly green wall clock that hung in your bedroom. It was a kind of clock designed specifically for children, with fat black hands pointing squarely at the friendly-looking numbers, second hand ticking pleasantly away above it all. You played and slept to the sound of it, like a heartbeat in the background, and never questioned the way it carried on faintly, even when you were away from home. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, the green wall clock was replaced by a small black piece that sat upon your bedside table. Its display was firmly digital, with sober red numbers flicking through the hours. But there it was still, the quiet, dull ticking of a clock's heavy hands, hovering like a ghost in the background of your life. It is, a hollow sound, echoing through your ankles and your wrists, ticking through your veins like a second pulse. The older you become, however, the greater your quiet alarm grows. You learn about auditory hallucinations, acute and chronic tinnitus. You see doctors, even fly cross-country to meet with a specialist, only to come up empty. You meet with psychiatrists who administer medications and therapy and combinations thereof. And while they do dredge up the vague childhood memories of the green plastic clock that may or may not have started it all, they do very little to stop the ceaseless ticking. Medical avenues exhausted, you become obsessed with other noise instead. You play classical music on repeat until your friends seem impressed by your culture, and your husband is sick of Debussy and Ravel and Bach, and then you switch to jazz until you both grow sick of that too. You drive with the windows down, letting the sounds of traffic and the wind roll over you, swirling around your car until it drowns out the distant secondhand. You go to bed with headphones on, the low voices of podcast hosts murmuring and lulling you to sleep. Inevitably, however, silence finds you. You wake up with your headphones off. You halt before a stop sign on a quiet patch of road. The music runs out, and you're left with the heavy tuck, tuck, tuck in the back of your mind, beating against your skull, drumming its steady tattoo down your spine and across your eyelids. It makes you sick to your stomach, this noise, and even the blood rushing through your ears can't quite drown it out. You swear it's growing louder as you get older. You play your music at steadily increasing volumes. Now you're onto swing music, all bright trumpets and jangling piano to knock the ticking away. You chatter to fill every lull in every conversation. You visit more psychiatrists, more otologists. You even try crystal healing at your daughter's suggestion, balancing clusters of quartz and amethyst around your head, all to no avail. Your husband, usually the calm to your storm, snaps at you to please just turn the damn radio off. I'm trying to read here. You do your best to be quiet with him, to ignore the ticking while he reads his book and you flip through television channels. But the sound is louder than television could ever be, and you end up crying in frustration. You visit more doctors. You fly to Europe, spending more than you can afford, really, but you're at your wit's end. It doesn't help. You're healthy, they say. Try more therapy. You go back to classical music, but the metronome of the clock pounds louder than even the most thundering Beethoven. Your hair is graying now, fine silver threads weaving through the black, and you invite friends over for lunch only to talk over them all. They leave early. You don't invite them back. Just turn up the television as your husband shakes his head and takes his book upstairs. You stumble upon a clock at an antique shop, and your breath catches in your throat. It's huge in porcelain, shaped vaguely like a gravestone, a mounded iridescent slab coated with molded lavender ribbons and pale-cheeked cupids, mounds of delicate roses frothing like blood at the base. A clock, gold-rimmed with cheap plastic hands and stark black numbers, is set in the middle of it all. It's hideous and expensive, and the sound of the second hand echoes the noise that's haunted you all these years. You buy it immediately, feeling a mounting sense of closure as you swipe your credit card. Once home, you take it into the backyard and smash it to pieces, using your husband's old hammer to crush every staring chair of every porcelain rose until a pile of jagged iridescent shards is all that remains. The plastic clock is slower to go. It clings to life like an animal, gold rim denting without breaking, hands moving even while mangled. It's no match for your ferocity, though, and you hit it and hit it and hit it until there's no more sound but the thud of your hammer on glass and plastic, no thought in your head beyond the destruction of the ceaseless noise. Black plastic innards crack behind the broken face. A battery rolls from the chaos, halting against fragments of shimmering glass. You've forgotten your daughter was visiting today. You were going to have lunch with her and your grandson, have a nice walk to the park afterwards. She stands now with your husband, staring at you from behind the patio door. You stab your hand on a downward swing on a shard of a cupid's arm. Blood rolls slowly down your fingers. The next blow destroys it, cherubic remains becoming so much rubble and scree. Your grandson's small face is twisted in horror, eyes locked onto the blood, the glass as he cowers beside his mother. Porcelain dust shimmers through the air, shining in the sunlight, catching in your silver hair. The clock is dead. For a moment, there is only silence, and even with your husband's concern, your daughter's worried confusion, your grandson's wide eyes all staring down at you hunched over the raised clock, for a moment, there is only silence. The shore, pale sand shimmering and empty as the ocean draws away. Then the waves, rushing in as the tide rolls back, more vicious for having left it all. The ticking floods your ears with maddening precision, achingly relentless, no longer remotely distant but as near as if it were right behind you. The clock, heavy and plastic and ugly and evil, ticking forever just out of sight, second hand scraping against your veins, clawing against your throat. Dropping the hammer, you put your head in your hands and sob. You don't visit any more therapists. You don't go to any more doctors. You talk to your husband and your daughter and your son-in-law, and they try to understand, try to offer suggestions. There isn't much that's new. You've had this problem longer than you've known any of them, longer than you can remember, and the worse it gets, the more hopeless you feel. You sweep up the broken pieces of the ugly porcelain clock, and by garbage day it's gone forever. You stop playing music, you stop talking over people, stop trying to fill every silence. Each tick grates into your skull, into your deepest thoughts and memories, but you don't say anything. Your grandson's face, crumpled with fear and confusion at the sight of your manic destruction, won't quite leave you, so you keep the television on low, the music off, the windows of your car rolled up. You do wonder, of course, just what exactly it is. You used to think it was a physical issue, tinnitus to the extreme, a broken ear bone, then became convinced it was something mental instead, a hallucination, a nervous tic. Lately, however, you've begun to wonder if it isn't something bigger than that, something deeper than that. You wonder if it's counting down, perhaps, or counting up. If that's the case, why you? Why out of all these people on earth are your seconds being measured? You've never been one for religion. Vaguely spiritual, yes. You ostensibly believe in karma, knock on wood for good luck every once in a while. Now, though, you fling yourself into this newest outlet, scouring tales and myths of omens and prophets, demons and deities, hunting for meaning within it all. You grow convinced that the clock is counting towards something, some kind of major event. It has to be bad. Nothing this infuriating could ever herald miracles. But you can't begin to imagine what it will actually be. Will it be global, you wonder? The end times, the Kali Yuga, Ragnarok? Or will it be smaller, more personal? A death in the family, a horrible accident of some kind. You scrutinize your family's health and habits, beg your daughter to drive carefully, your son-in-law to make sure all the doors are locked securely at night. At first they play along, promising to be careful. But soon enough they grow irritated and snap at their adults. They know how to live their lives. They don't need constant reminders to not kill themselves. The ticking shudders through your teeth, through your aching joints, beating you down, and you wonder if it isn't your death it's prophesizing, maybe even causing. Your death. You've thought about it in a practical sense, of course. Your husband and you had a will and testament written up long ago, set aside money for funeral preparations. You've never been morbid, but now, as you continue to grow older and the clock continues to grow louder, you just can't shake the thought of it. Your death. Your pulse speeds at the thought of it. Your own veins trying to prove they're still alive, you're still alive, maddeningly out of sync with the ticking. You've forgone music, leave the windows rolled up in your car. What's the point? You wake at night with the ticking pounding through you, bright spots of pain flaring behind your eyes and spiking through your ears. You try another doctor. He gives you migraine pills that do very little besides make you dizzy. You wonder if anything short of death will make it stop. You don't tell your husband. There's no need to worry him needlessly. It isn't like you'd actually do anything. but you daydream of the end, the quiet blackness. You still aren't sure if you believe in life after death, but if there is something, the ticking can't follow you there, right? It drips from your ears and the back of your neck. Your skin crawls. You don't talk much to anyone these days purely because you can barely hear what they're saying in the first place. When you do say something, it's usually wrong, born from some misheard snippet of the conversation, and they look at you with a thin and piteous patience reserved for the elderly and confused. You dream of silence, of hearing soft noises again. You have to watch television with the subtitles on now. You miss your classical music. Your grandson visits with his fiancée, a sweet but shy young woman, perpetually unsure of what to say to you. You don't blame her. You know what you must seem like. Aged, addled. You pour them glasses of lemonade, and your hands shake in time with the ticking. Each tick feels like a pinprick, thin skeletal hands with needles for nails, clutching and scratching at your soul. You dream of darkness, and wake with dry eyes and a heavy, sick feeling. You haven't cried over this for years. There's no point, really. It drowns out your husband's voice and your daughter's telephone calls, and all you can do is wait. When it finally comes, your grandson is older now, married, and the few silver hairs you once had are now threading through your daughter's dark hair. Your husband's lips are moving, but you can't hear his words. The clock rushes over you, ticking faster now it seems, each tick tumbling and falling and tripping into the other, stumbling painfully through your tired veins. You hold his hand. There are no doctors. As before, as always, nothing can be done. You think you see the bright green wall clock just in the corners of your vision, but it's growing smudged and dark. You can hear it, though. You wonder when it will stop. You hold your husband's hand. Your grandson is there, older than you remembered. You wonder when it will stop. You can almost see it, the plastic face, the fat black hands. You can hear it now, louder now, beating faster and faster than your pulse. You wonder when it will stop. Your grandson and daughter are there. So are your son-in-law, your granddaughter-in-law. You can't hear their words, but you hold your husband's hand. All sound stops. The clock is gone. You try to hold your husband's hand, but he's gone too now, grip fading. Or maybe you're the one fading, you can't tell anymore, and you hear nothing but silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. The sand, pale and shimmering and empty as the waves draw from the shore. A porcelain clock, cupids fluttering away as the roses wither and die, as the hands shatter quietly into oblivion. You let yourself fall into the soundless night. In the darkness, there is nothing. The sand, empty, noiseless. Then, the waves, more vicious for having left it all. The ticking circles you like a shark, like a bird of prey, echoing through your bones, replacing your absent pulse, your vacant heartbeat. You ache suddenly and violently at the ceaseless beating of it. In the darkness, no longer soundless, the clock ticks on. Thank you for listening.